Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? Welcome to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner on 12OZSportsRadio.com. I am your host, Glenn Kaplan. We're live in Baltimore, Maryland, which is home of the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens. Who's excited for today's show? Hope you all had a wonderful weekend and enjoyed the 2020 NFL Draft nonetheless. We finally had some sports excitement, and let's hope that's just the beginning in what's to come in the immediate future. So a lot of leagues not going on right now, but the NFL Draft created a lot of hope and a lot of optimism for the future, and hopefully we'll have a 2020 season. And that's what I'm really looking forward to, and I'm sure that's what the rest of all yous are looking forward to as well. Let's see. I hope you all also enjoyed watching The Last Dance last night, episodes 3 and 4 on ESPN. I happen to enjoy it. That will probably be the end of the show. I will talk about The Last Dance because I have a lot of NFL Draft recap to do today on here on the 64th show. And I'm so excited to get into things. I hope you all are staying safe. Love you all and just spending time wisely. And hopefully we are self-isolated. Get out of this self-isolation very soon nonetheless. If you're watching cartoons or doing whatever else, exercising, be safe and be healthy. So I think you all sounded an alarm when the Packers took quarterback Jordan Love with the 26th overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. And my dad and my brother were like, whoa. Green Bay took a quarterback with the 26th pick, let alone they traded up from the 30th spot to the 26th spot to grab Jordan Love out of Utah State. Happens to know that Jordan Love isn't even going to be playing a snap this year. Maybe not even in 2 or 3 years. So what is this all about? First of all, it's all about, remember when Aaron Rodgers got drafted by the Packers in 2005, 24th overall pick out of the University of California, and Brett Favre was 36 years old. Rodgers sat behind him a few years. This is what it's like here. Rodgers is 36. He still has 4 more years on his contract. But now I'm thinking the truth of the matter is Rodgers is not making it out of these 4 years. First of all, Rodgers was more injury prone than Brett Favre was. It seemed like at their points at their ages of their respective careers. Rodgers had 2 collarbones. The only time I remember Favre getting injured was when after he left Green Bay with a collarbone and concussion when he was with the Vikings and the Jets, because that's when his body was starting to break down. I don't remember Brett Favre getting injuries with the Packers unlike Aaron Rodgers. And another thing that speaks out to me on the reason, and one thing that speaks out to me is the Packers did not go wide receiver with 1 pick in this draft. And to tell me you don't go 1 wide receiver for Aaron bleeping Rodgers in this NFL draft tells me there is a relationship struggle somewhere and a divorce is coming sooner rather than later. Because there's some sides to this relationship that's like, this is all over, but we don't see it yet. You know, in a husband and a wife, and it's like, I can't deal with this anymore. Yeah, we need this for a couple more years just to provide stability for our children until they reach like age 18 or 21. They could be out on their own. Well, this is what it seems like here with Aaron Rodgers and a relationship with the Green Bay Packers, all right. Because they don't like Aaron Rodgers. They haven't gotten him a defense. They haven't gotten him wide receiver help. All they have is Devontae Adams, Marcus Valdes-Scantling. They lost Geronimo Allison. They have no one else on the outside. Allen Lazard's at. They don't have any separators. You mean to tell me they couldn't get not one wide receiver in this draft class? Not one. Unless I saw a Twitter report yesterday saying that next year's wide receiver class might be deeper, then yet again the Packers might fool themselves and not draft a wide receiver. Oh, and the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers might be too late. That's just like in a relationship when you're about to have a divorce. And it's like, oh, let's have a child and try to save this thing. It's like with the Packers, let's try and draft a wide receiver and try and save this thing. No. The damage between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers is finished. It's done. It's finito. It's finished. It's just a matter of when. And it's not going to be next year. It might be 2 years and it's maximum 3 years. But there's no way that Aaron Rodgers is completing out these 4 years here with the Packers. Because what's going to happen is he's going to ask for a trade, or they're going to trade him, or he's going to ask for a release. There is no ands, ifs, or buts about it. Listen, I know Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks who ever played. Do I think he's the greatest quarterback of all time? Absolutely not. But to tell me that the Packers have loved and support this man throughout the time here is completely disgraceful. They love Brett Favre more than they treated Brett Favre much more better than they ever treated Aaron Rodgers. Because let me tell you something. There has to be somewhere down the road a struggle power between LaFleur and Rodgers and management. Jordan Love wasn't... I guess some mock drafts had Jordan Love going to Green Bay. But to tell me and me sitting here this morning that they needed to trade up because the Indianapolis Colts almost grabbed him was like, what are the Packers thinking in this relationship? Now, I don't think getting Jordan Love is a bad idea. I personally think Jordan Love was definitely not the worst pick in the first round. That I will tell you. I think there were a lot worse picks than that Jordan Love pick. And I understand why people don't like it because Green Bay's in win-now mode and they need to get Aaron Rodgers some help at the outside, which I understand. But to tell me in this situation that Aaron Rodgers is loved and supported, you're absolutely wrong. He's like the forgotten child. It's like when you have 10 kids, and he's the 1 out of the 10 that's forgotten. And I know he's speaking of family he's had, doesn't speak to a lot of his family members and all this other stuff, and he exactly doesn't have exactly great quality leadership skills, nonetheless. And I'm very curious to see how he's going to mentor Jordan Love. And I am 100% sure that's not going to go very well. And I know there have been some reporters on Twitter that have been saying stuff and some Packers players are going after him. But the Packers players are just trying to show love and support. And they're just trying to put a Band-Aid over everything where you know this bandage is not going to fix the bigger bleeding in all of this. In the meantime, I think Jordan Love is going to do well because he's going to get NFL coaching despite the 28% of uncatchable passes last year. And I wonder how many actually of those were throwaways. And speaking of throwaways, Aaron Rodgers has done that a lot before as well. So Jordan Love, last season, 293 of 473 passes, completed 61.9% of his passes for 3,402 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions. In his 3-year collegiate career, 689 of 1,125 passes, 61.2% completion percentage, 8,600 yards, 60 touchdowns, 29 interceptions. rushed for 46 yards on 16 carries and a touchdown. And he also rushed for 614 yards on 174 carries and 28 touchdowns in 3 years at Utah State. Meanwhile, for Aaron Rodgers last year, 353 of 569 passes, 62% percentage completion rate, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, go with 4,002 yards. In his career of 3,913 completed passes for 6,061 yards, and a 64.6 completion percentage for 364 touchdowns and 84 interceptions. Also rushed for 175 yards. Sorry about that for 1 second. So Aaron Rodgers. It just is just basically disgraceful that he was treated like this. And Aaron Rodgers was one of the main leaders on this team, and he was also the heartbeat and the heart and soul of the Green Bay Packers for all this time after he took over Brett Favre for the last decade, and we'll see how long it takes Jordan Love to develop. Moving on to the next take, Jalen Hurts, taken with the 53rd overall pick, and the Eagles fan base has gone in a panic frenzy. So there was an Eagles fan that I happened to see on Facebook yesterday that was going absolute all chaos. And like, what is Howie Roseman doing? The general manager, and I get it. I understand his frustration. And at least he's thinking correctly. Unlike a couple of people I got in text messages from yesterday, and it was completely outrageous, and I'll share that with you in just a minute. And I'm going to give my take on this first. So, what is he thinking? All right. So, Carson Wentz, yes, he's injury prone. You lose Josh McCown to retirement. And your other quarterbacks on the roster are Nate Sudfeld and Kyle Lauletta. I guess one of the plans is to have Jalen Hurts as a guy like Taysom Hill, and supposedly Howie Roseman informed Carson Wentz of this, and Wentz is like, sure, I'm on board with it. And Wentz is a team-first guy. Come on, he helped out Nick Foles to the best of his possibility. But some of these Eagles fans are still on the, Wentz this wagon, Wentz that, Wentz this, da-da-da. First of all, he had no receivers last year. And Max Kellerman on ESPN, a First Take this morning, thinks one should ask for a trade. And Stephen A. Smith and Darren Orlovsky basically ripped them to shreds. And they have every right to do so because Max Kellerman half of the time doesn't seem to know what he's talking about. So he's like, one should ask for a trade. I'm like, no. And then I was kind of thinking, should I bring up that question? Should Wentz ask for a trade? But here's what I'm going to tie it into with Aaron Rodgers a little bit. Yeah, the difference is Carson Wentz is loved and supported by the Eagles. And at least, yes, it may not have been the receiver they were hoping. Fans might have been hoping for. But they did take a receiver. And they happened to trade for Marquise Goodwin. So it's not like they didn't try to support Wentz. They happened to get 2 receivers. So now they have Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, Marquise Goodwin, and Jalen Reagor. So don't tell me that Wentz isn't loved and supported. It's just that Wentz has an injury prone, and it happens. So I don't think Hurts is a threat to Carson Wentz whatsoever. First of all, Jalen Hurts needs the complete right environment. He needs the weapons. He needs the offensive line. He needs the running back. He's a system quarterback. Jalen Hurts doesn't have a higher ceiling than maybe like a Dak Prescott or a Case Keenum. I think Hurts is a system quarterback. You can't just plug in Jalen Hurts to any old system. Why do you think he was pulled out of the national championship game for Tua Tagovailoa? And Tagovailoa took his job, and that's why Jalen Hurts transferred. And why do you think Hurts excelled and actually won the Heisman Trophy under Lincoln Riley, who basically knows how to work with systems? I mean, Hurts is a system quarterback. First of all, you can't plug Hurts onto any old team. Jalen Hurts is a beast. He's good, he's athletic, but he's not an NFL starting quarterback. Do you actually believe Hurts is better than Wentz? Really? Because this text message I got from an Eagles fan yesterday, I see, because I would just like to know what kind of I don't know, I guess medication or like what people are smoking down in that area. So a text message I received yesterday: trade Wentz for AJ Green, start Hurts. Let's see. What is the problem with that theory? Problem theory number one: Cincinnati already has drafted their quarterback in the future in Joe Burrow, and the Cincinnati Bengals would not trade for Carson Wentz. Number two, what else is wrong with your theory? Oh yeah, the Bengals are probably not going to trade AJ Green. They would probably just let him walk for nothing, and they have him on a franchise tag, and AJ Green's just going to show up. The third problem with your theory is that Jalen Hurts is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. And if you believe that Hurts is better than Wentz, and if you actually believe that Jalen Hurts has a better chance to win a playoff game in a Super Bowl than Carson Wentz, I have no idea where you learned your football from, because it definitely wasn't from me. Because let me tell you something, that is just pure blasphemy that you say something like that, and that's just flat out ridiculous that you would actually text me something like that. Because listen, I've had bad takes, but that take on another level is just like, what are you talking about? I'm sorry, but that is one of the worst trades. No sides would take that deal. The Eagles are going to receiver. The Eagles believe in Carson Wentz. And this is why the fan base in Philadelphia is an absolute crapshoot. And I say it how it is. But that's what it is. Passionate, sometimes unintelligent. And there have been times I've said unintelligent stuff, of course I have. But then there's just levels of what is going on. This is just, you just want attention for it, just for the sole reason of, I'm not a fan of that thing whatsoever. And if I had to ask 100 people that, 90% of people would say, you're insane for even mentioning something like that. But I did look up something in Carson Wentz's contract this morning that did bring out something very interesting to me. So, he does have an opt-out after the 2022 season. But if he doesn't opt out, he runs till after 2024. Which brings up the question: if Wentz is injury prone after the 2022 NFL season, do the Eagles, do they opt out? What do they do? That's going to decide, and it maybe depend on Jalen Hurts' development. But as I just said, I don't see Hurts really developing into a good quarterback. I just think he's a system guy. I think the Eagles are going to regret this move. I understand that head coach Doug Peterson wants to be flexible on the offensive side of the ball. But at the end of the day, let's be real. Carson Wentz is the guy in Philadelphia. And whoever says Carson Wentz is not the guy in Philadelphia, are you really an Eagles fan? Just say it how it is. If you want to call it Wentz injury prone, and if you want to question whether he can stay healthy or not, sure. Fine, I'm fine with that. All fans have those concerns. But to say that Wentz is not a better quarterback than Hurts, are you even truly an Eagles fan? That's what I have to say on the matter. And the Eagles, for crying out loud, yes, I know you won a Super Bowl, and let's look at it. Wentz was going to win the MVP, and Carson Wentz, on the other hand, was going to lead you guys to the promised land anyway, so I don't get it. And yes, Tom Brady won the MVP that year, but I mean, come on! Have some sense in your minds, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see what happens in this and Carson Wentz is your guy, and that's very interesting to see nonetheless. So here we go. So it's basically almost the end of the semester for colleges, basically online. And they basically have to start grading all of their classes. And some colleges already had graduation. Speaking of grades, I have my grades for the NFL draft. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. In the first round, when Cincinnati Bengals Joe Burrow quarterback, LSU. I gave that grade an A+. Right move. Number 2, Washington Redskins, Chase Young defensive end, Ohio State, grade an A+. Number 3, Detroit Lions, Jeffrey Okudah, cornerback, Ohio State, a grade of an A+. Number 4, New York Giants, Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, Georgia, grade A-. So speaking of Andrew Thomas, I like the pick for the Giants. And here's another text message I got from a Las Vegas Raiders fan yesterday over another ridiculous statement saying, imagine taking Andrew Thomas over Mekhi Becton, actually like 7 picks better before the better OT. First of all, Mekhi Becton is a project, not an actual. I guess he's more of a project more than anything else. First of all, and the guy said to me, oh, speed, speed, speed. Well, that's why you're a Raiders fan, because you're obsessed on speed. The old regime for the Giants would have taken Becton, not Gettleman, because Becton, yeah, he's 360 and 365, but Mekhi Becton could break down. Yes, I guess that goes for any offensive lineman. But Andrew Thomas is a rock-solid offensive tackle. That's all I have to say. And to actually believe Becton would have been the better pick is absolutely bonkers. And those two guys just basically like yesterday was just like, what are you all talking about? I said, and I'm just like, I'm not going to like say anything further on the matter because I'm really not going to say anything further on the matter. So the 5th pick, Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback, Alabama. My grade was a C, only because I thought they were going to take Justin Herbert, and I'm not sure about Tua's hip. Number 6, the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, quarterback, Oregon. I give that grade a B+. He doesn't have to start right away. Yeah, Tua's not going to have to start right away. Tua's in a good situation with Miami, but like I said, with the hip injury, and Justin Herbert is going to learn a little bit from Tyrod Taylor, but I don't think Justin Herbert's going to sit the full year. I think he's going to play and give him a spark. Number 7, Carolina Panthers, Derek Brown, defensive tackle, Auburn, a grade of an A-. And I was actually texting the Carolina Panthers fan during the draft. He wasn't a fan of the pick for some reason. I personally thought Derek Brown was a good pick. And then my dad said something to me about that Matt Patricia Detroit actually wanted Brown, but management wanted Jeffrey Okudah. That was an interesting conversation with my dad and my brothers about the whole NFL draft. And my one friend's Carolina Panthers fans he wanted Isaiah Simmons. But I thought they did good here with the pick. And the thing about Derek Brown is you need interior defensive linemen to disrupt Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady in your division because they're more pocket passers than scramblers. Number 8, Arizona Cardinals, Isaiah Simmons, safety linebacker Clemson. I give that grade of an A+. Simmons was clearly the best offensive player on the board. Arizona's going to use him in so many different ways. One week, they're going to basically try and mess up George Kittle, tight end for the 49ers. Next week, you're going to basically have him spy Russell Wilson for the Seattle Seahawks. And then the Rams basically blitz because that offensive line is horrendous. Number 9, Jacksonville Jaguars, C.J. Henderson, cornerback, Florida. I give that grade a B-. I do like the pick because I think they needed a corner. And yes, it's basically easy because Jacksonville's in Florida and it's basically in their own backyard. Basically, I believe it's down I-5 into Gainesville. But the thing is, Henderson might have been taken just a little high. Other than that, I think it's a quality pick. Number 10, Cleveland Browns, Jedrick Wills, Jr., offensive tackle, Alabama. I give that grade a B+. Wills is going to go to the left tackle. He's going to take some time to develop because he played a lot of right tackle in college. Jack Conklin's the right tackle. So now, Browns have no more excuses for Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, and Austin Hooper. And they got a new regime with new head coach, Kevin Stefanski. Number 11, Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle, Louisville. I'm sorry, New York Jets. I give this an F across the board. Yes, I know my dad and my brother completely criticized me for giving this an F. At the same time, the Jets addressed the offensive line in free agency. You had Judy, Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins on the board at wide receiver. And you're going to tell me you went another offensive lineman? Where you needed a receiver for Sam Darnold? Blasphemy. The 12th pick, Las Vegas Raiders, Henry Ruggs, the third wide receiver, Alabama. I give that grade a D. First of all, Henry Ruggs, yes, he's got mad speed. And someone said on Twitter that former owner Al Davis come out of the dead and make this pick. Because that's a typical Raiders pick. And I'm not exactly sure how that went down with general manager Mike Mayock and head coach John Gruden. Because Gruden knows a Raider guy. And as for Mike Mayock, I know he's a better scout and evaluator than that. I mean, is he? I mean, I would think he would like Jerry Jeudy. I mean, if he was in the studio, he probably would question his own pick to tell you the honest truth with this one. With the 13th pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle, Iowa. That's a grade of an A+. Tampa Bay fills in their right tackle on the offensive line, gets Tom Brady more protection. And they traded up one spot. The 14th pick, San Francisco 49ers selected Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle, South Carolina. I give that grade a D because I did not think San Francisco needed a defensive lineman. Yes, I know they traded away Arik Armstead, but you are going to tell me that they should not have drafted Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb or T. Higgins. And I can't wait to rip their wide receiver pick in just a few minutes when I get to their next selection. The 15th pick, Denver Broncos, Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Alabama. That's a grade of an A+. That's very simple. I think Judy's the best receiver in the draft. Quarterback Drew Lock is getting another wide receiver to help him out with Cortland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton. And for Pat Shurmur's offense, he's the new offensive coordinator after being fired by the New York Giants. The 16th pick, the Atlanta Falcons, A.J. Terrell, cornerback Clemson. I give that grade of a D. Now, it was a position need, but I felt like they could have gone a little bit better here. I don't think Terrell's a bad corner. I think he does have some potential. But the problem is, when you draft on need sometimes based on the best player available, it comes back to bite you. And Atlanta needs to make the playoffs or Dan Quinn is going to get fired. Dallas Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb with the 17th pick, wide receiver, Oklahoma, I give that grade a B+. Now, the reason why I give that a B+ and not an A is because I thought I know it helps out Dak, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott. Well, I mean, it's right up by 35, and this wasn't even on Jerry Jones's draft board because he thought, him and Mike McCarthy thought, hey, this guy's going to be gone. Kellen Moore, too. They all thought, hey, he's going to be gone. Jerry Jones. I'm like, hey, I can't believe this guy's still available here at number 17. So it's a good pick for Dallas, but I felt like they should have gotten defense. Number 18, Miami Dolphins, Austin Jackson, offensive lineman, USC, grade C+. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Austin Jackson was a second-round talent. Maybe Miami reached for him just a little bit, just a tad. But Austin Jackson does have talent, and he's got potential. And Miami had a very good draft. They revamped up. They really built up the offense. What I did like about the draft Miami, they built up the offensive line. They drafted 3 linemen. They drafted their future quarterback. Hopefully, Tua Tagovailoa stays healthy for their sake. And I know a Dolphins fan texted me. He's like, he liked the Tua pick, but isn't sure about Austin Jackson, the other guy they took later. And I'll get to that in a little bit. Number 19, Las Vegas Raiders, Damon Arnett, cornerback, Ohio State. That's a grade of an obvious F-ity FF. Now, I'm just like, I remember saying F-ity FF. I think it was an iCarly show. I remember a teacher said to one of the students, F-ity FF. That's what I was like. I'm like, what were the Raiders doing drafting Damon Arnett, cornerback, Ohio State, with that pick? Arnett wasn't even supposed to go in the first round, let alone maybe the second round, not until the third round. What were they thinking? Was it maybe just because they're like, he just played on the other side of a Jeffrey Okudah that Arnett is actually better than what the tape says? Well, it's maybe possible. And maybe they know better than we do, and maybe the grades are harsh, but I mean, Arnett wasn't supposed to go in the first 2 rounds. Not the first round, maybe not let alone the second round. And the third round and the fourth, and yeah, we've been more of a third or fourth round pick. So didn't think the Raiders drafted really well nonetheless. The 20th pick, Jacksonville Jaguars, K'Lavon Chaisson, defensive lineman, edge rusher, LSU. I give that grade of a B. You have him now and Josh Allen. And Jacksonville fixed up the defense. So maybe they're heading in the right direction. And I expect Yannick Ngakoue not to even report. Number 21, Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Reagor, wide receiver, TCU. I gave that grade of a D. And another text I sent to an Eagles fan. This one's actually a close friend of mine. I told him, I said, LOL to the Eagles pick. And he's like, why? What did they do? I told him they drafted basically just a slot receiver where I thought they needed more of an outside threat. He's like to me basically for the reason of that they like speedy slot guys a lot. I said to him, oh, okay, basically that makes sense. So basically understand what that says. I get it. See, that made more sense to me. I think Reagor's going to be more of a slot. In the NFL, he's not an outside guy. My concern with Reagor is how he's going to take hits from like linebackers, that's big linebackers and big safeties at the next level. 22nd pick, Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU. I give that pick an A+. Very simply, Jefferson was the best wide receiver at the board. Him or T. Higgins were the best wide receivers. Jefferson he goes from purple to purple, and I like his pinpoint accuracy when it comes to catching passes. 23, Los Angeles Chargers, Kenneth Murray, linebacker, Oklahoma. I give that grade a B. They moved up from the 37th selection to the 23rd with the New England Patriots, and I felt like 14 spots. Okay, I guess so, but I'm not going to give that grade an A. 24th selection, New Orleans Saints. Cesar Ruiz, a center from Michigan. I give that grade a C. I'm not sure Cesar Ruiz is going to start this year. Max Unger's getting a little bit older at center. But Cesar Ruiz is going to be a nice option for the future, just not at the moment. 25. San Francisco 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver, Arizona State. I give that grade of a D. How, if you're the San Francisco 49ers, you just lost the Super Bowl, and you mess up the wide receiver room. You draft Ayuk, who has an injury history, and John Lynch, general manager, and Kyle Shanahan, the head coach. You have Ayuk as the best receiver on your board? Over guys like CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs and Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins? Goodness gracious on that part. What are you guys evaluating in that locker room? What kind of... I would love to know, in the Bay Area right now, what kind of hardcore drugs they were really taking during this draft process, because Ayuk is not the best receiver in this draft. Sure, Ayuk has speed, and sure, he knows how to run good routes, good hands, and he runs good patterns. But I give it a D because they traded up. Ayuk wasn't supposed to go in the first round. T. Higgins was still on the board, and you take an injury-prone receiver. That's my problem with this Ayuk pick. And the funny thing is, Herm Edwards, who's the head coach of Arizona State, actually has, for the 2 straight years, an Arizona State wide receiver taking the first round. Props to him. Last year was N'Keal Harry going to New England, and he has potential. But I think Ayuk may have more upside. But I'm just not a fan of the selection for the 49ers, even though I know they needed a receiver. 26th pick for the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love, quarterback, Utah State. I give that grade of a B. 27, Seattle Seahawks, Jordan Brooks, linebacker, Texas Tech. Grade of a C, because I'm very neutral. I didn't know much of a scouting report on him. I can't give it an F. I can't give it a D. I can't give it a B, and I can't give it an A. And my dad's like, you're one of the more generous ones with that selection. Because a lot of people had Ds. I don't remember if he told me he had F. Some people had Fs on that one, but I'm not one of them. I gave it a C nonetheless. 28th selection, the Baltimore Ravens took Patrick Queen, linebacker, LSU. Grade of a B. Fill a middle linebacker spot. 29, Tennessee Titans, Isaiah Wilson, offensive lineman, Georgia. Grade of a B. 30, Miami Dolphins, Noah Igbinoghene, cornerback, Auburn. Grade of a C-. 31, Minnesota Vikings, Jeff Gladney, cornerback, TCU. Grade of an A. And 32, Kansas City Chiefs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back, LSU. That's a grade of an A+, ladies and gentlemen, because, ladies and gentlemen, the Kansas City Chiefs are lock and loaded again this year. So now I'm going to get into more of the noticeable picks in the later rounds of the 2020 NFL Draft, and here we go. 33, Cincinnati Bengals, T. Higgins, wide receiver, Clemson. 34 and 41 by the Indianapolis Colts. Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver, USC. And Jonathan Taylor, running back, Wisconsin. 35, Detroit Lions. DeAndre Swift, running back, Georgia. New York Giants, at the 36th selection, Xavier McKinney, safety, Alabama. Safety from Alabama. 37 and 60, New England Patriots, Kyle Duggar, safety, Lenoir-Rhyne. And Josh Uche, linebacker, Michigan. Lenoir-Rhyne, Kyle Duggar from Lenoir-Rhyne was a division. He was from a Division II school. 36 and 64 for the Carolina Panthers. Yetur Gross-Matos, defensive end, edge rusher, Penn State. And Jeremy Chin, safety, Southern Illinois. 39 and 56, Miami Dolphins. Robert Hunt, offensive line, Louisiana Lafayette. and Raekwon Davis, defensive tackle, Alabama. 40, Houston Texans, Ross Blacklock, defensive tackle, TCU. 42, Jacksonville Jaguars, Laviska Shenault Jr., wide receiver, Colorado. 43 and 50, Chicago Bears, Cole Kmet, tight end, Notre Dame, and Jalen Smith, cornerback, Alabama. Cleveland Browns, 44, Grant Delpit, safety, LSU. 45, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Antoine Winfield Jr., safety of Maryland. 46, Denver Broncos, KJ Hamler, wide receiver, Penn State. 47, Atlanta Falcons, Marlon Davidson, edge, Auburn. 49, Pittsburgh Steelers, Chase Claypool, wide receiver, Notre Dame. 51, Dallas Cowboys, Trayvon Diggs, cornerback, Alabama. 52 and 57, Los Angeles Rams, Cam Akers, running back, Florida State, and Van Jefferson, wide receiver, Florida. 53, Philadelphia Eagles, Hurts, quarterback, Oklahoma. 54, Buffalo Bills, AJ Epenesa, edge rusher, Iowa. 55, Baltimore Ravens, J.K. Dobbins, running back, Ohio State. 58, Minnesota Vikings, Ezra Cleveland, offensive tackle, Boise State. 59, New York Jets, Denzel Mims, wide receiver, Baylor. 61, Christian Fulton, cornerback, LSU. That's who the Tennessee Titans took with that pick nonetheless. 65, Cincinnati Bengals, Logan Wilson, linebacker, Wyoming. 66, Washington Redskins, Antonio Gibson, wide receiver, Memphis. 67, Detroit Lions, Romeo Okwara, edge rusher, Notre Dame. At 65, Cincinnati, Logan Wilson, linebacker, Wyoming. 66, Washington Redskins, Antonio Gibson, wide receiver, Memphis. 67, Detroit, Romeo Okwara, edge rusher, Notre Dame. 68, New York Jets, Ashton Davis, safety, California. 69, Seattle Seahawks, Damian Lewis, guard, LSU. Baltimore Ravens at 71, Justin Luke, defensive tackle, Texas A&M. 72, Arizona Cardinals, Josh Jones, offensive tackle, Houston. New Orleans Saints at 74, Zach Bond, outside linebacker, Wisconsin. 82, Dallas Cowboys, Neville Gallimore, defensive tackle, Oklahoma. 83, Denver Broncos, Lloyd Cushenberry, the third offensive lineman, LSU. 84 and a 104, Los Angeles Rams, Terrell Lewis, edge rusher, Alabama. And Terrell Burgess, safety, Utah. Buffalo Bills at 86, Zach Moss, running back, Utah. Kansas City Chiefs at 96, Lucas Nyanga, offensive tackle, TCU. Indianapolis Colts at 122, Jacob Eason, quarterback, Washington. 158 for the New York Jets, Bryce Hall, a cornerback from Virginia. 167, Buffalo Bills, Jacob Fromm, quarterback, Georgia. 187, Cleveland Browns, Donovan Peoples-Jones, wide receiver, Michigan. 240, New Orleans Saints, Tommy Stevens, quarterback, Mississippi State. 255, New York Giants, Tate Crowder, linebacker, Georgia. He was Mr. Irrelevant at the 2020 NFL Draft. And I want to show the conference of the CAA and the FCS some love here. In the 231st pick, Dallas Cowboys took Ben DiNucci, quarterback, James Madison. And the Towson wide receiver, Shane Leatherbury, was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Arizona Cardinals. Good luck to them at the next level as they try to make their families and others proud nonetheless. Representing Towson, Shane Leatherbury, make us all proud. We know how much we love you all down at the Towson, down at Towson University. So we've been showing you all the love and support. And I remember posting something on my Instagram and Snapchat stories. I know some of the other Towson football players have as well. So it's just like, it's so nice to see one of the Towson guys try and make a name for himself at the next level. It's pretty cool when you get to be with a guy like Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella and DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray and Kenyon Drake, and you got Cliff Kingsbury as the head coach. That'll be something. The nice slot receiver, and maybe calls on Sundays. Touchdown Murray to Leatherbury. Let's hope that was what we're hearing. Maybe one Sunday, or maybe for many Sundays. But we'll see how this all happens to wind up. Down near the road, nonetheless, in these situations, so speaking of wide receivers and other stuff, I'm just going to give you a couple of names. I'll give you 2 or 3 names at each position for fantasy football next year. And I think the only quarterback for rookies that will make a name, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals. Top 3 potential rookie running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kansas City Chiefs, DeAndre Swift, out of the Detroit Lions, and maybe Jonathan Taylor, the Indianapolis Colts. And fantasy wide receivers, my 3 best bets, Jerry Jeudy, the Denver Broncos, Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. Oh, the third one. You got Henry Ruggs of the Raiders. You got KJ Hamler, Denver. You have Jalen Reagor, the Eagles. CeeDee Lamb of Dallas. Brandon Ayuk of San Francisco. T. Higgins of Cincinnati. You have a lot of these. You have a lot of guys. Maybe Laviska Shenault Jr. Jacksonville. But you also have Chase Claypool and Pittman Jr., Lynn Bowden, Antonio Gibson, Brian Edwards, and Lynn Bowden, Devin Duvernay, and Gabriel Davis, and Antonio Gandy Golden. And you have basically a lot of these rookie wide receivers that are ready to make names for themselves. Van Jefferson. Oh, and Antonio Gandy Golden. You have basically a lot of these guys that are ready to make names for themselves at the next level. So now that I'm done with the football, and tight ends. Obviously, Cole Kmet of Chicago. I'm going to go with Bryson Hopkins, tight end for the Rams. Maybe Adam Trotman for the Saints. The tight end class was really weak. An executive's like, I'd rather take the 10th best receiver rather than the first best tight end. So that's going to be interesting to see how all this all plays out moving forward. I don't know how it's going to wind up going to be happening, because I just really think that the tight ends aren't going to produce. You're going to see a lot of wide receivers this year and running backs. And then you got quarterbacks. I just only think one quarterback's really going to make a name for himself as rookie, and that's Joe Burrow. I'm not expecting Tua to play or Justin Herbert to play, and not Jalen Hurts and Jacob Eason or Jacob Fromm. I'm not expecting these quarterbacks to play. I mean, that's what we maybe thought last year, but you know how the tables like to turn sometimes. I just don't know. So we will see what's going to happen in the future nonetheless. So moving on to my final topic of today is The Last Dance. Actually, the second to last of episodes 3 and 4. So I basically said on my Facebook and my Twitter last night that I would have loved to have hated Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls growing up. Now, what do I mean by that? He kind of had that, he could be like a little cocky attitude, and it's just like, sometimes, and it's just like, the Detroit Pistons roughing him up. And yes, I probably kind of would have appreciated the Detroit bad boy Pistons. And I know everyone says the Jordan rule, but it's like, everyone's like, no. Oh, this is why, excuse me. So this is why I probably would have hated Chicago. The shot in 89 against the Cavaliers in Game 5. It was a best of 5 at the time. It was a best of 5 series. It's not like in the first round we have best of 7 now. It was a game on the road. Michael Jordan, down 1, sucks the gravity out of the building, basically, with that shot. And that's basically what I just mentioned, sucked the gravity right out of the building, the words of Kevin Harlan of TNT. So, and CBS, Turner Sports, great announcer. So that was one sticking out point to me. Like, I probably wouldn't have liked Jordan's Bulls. I wouldn't have liked this. I wouldn't have liked that. There are personally, a lot of things I would not have liked about the Chicago Bulls. Because I would have been like, you know how, okay, so you know a guy like Jordan, it's like, he beats your favorite team, you're like, you hope they lose the next round, because I'm really not, one thing is, I'm really not into the thing of, I'm not a firm believer of, you should be rooting for the team that beat you and then hoping they win the finals. And it's funny because I was talking to some people the other day, and I'm just like, it's like stuff I've never done. And I only did it like once in my life with the Pens and the Capitals, and I'm just like, why am I doing that? First of all, I told a couple of people about that actually with the Penguins, the Cavs. I said that may never happen again. We'll see. So after that happened in '89, Jordan loses to the Pistons. One thing that stood out to me, when Chicago lost, they basically did it with grace because they're like, they shook their hands. They basically shook their hands and lost, and they lost games with grace and all that other stuff. On the other hand, when Detroit lost to them, they didn't even shake their hands, and Jordan felt like it was so disrespectful on basically all levels, and he couldn't have been more correct on this stance. And he said he hates Isaiah Thomas, and Isaiah Thomas basically went on Get Up this morning, and he felt like, oh, this and that. And there's a lot of very interesting things in this documentary that's being released. And here's another thing that stood out to me in the documentary. You know what they say? Nick Wright of Fox Sports 1. I think it's the phrase of, old people be lying or something. Something to that extent. And someone then responded on Twitter yesterday, he may be right. And this is something that I think is very true. On Twitter, when people say, oh, LeBron loses to the same team 3 out of 4 times. Yeah, LeBron lost 3 out of 4 times to Golden State in the finals. And then someone else on Twitter is like, but then people said Jordan would never lose 3 out of 4 times to the same team. But happens to know that Michael Jordan did lose 3 out of 4 times to the Detroit Pistons. So are we just going to sit here and continue the double biasy of Michael Jordan and LeBron James throughout this? Because the video is in the pudding, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, the situation is here that the more stuff that is released about this documentary, we cannot be double biased towards Jordan and LeBron. That's what I have to say on the matter. Because Michael Jordan and LeBron James, you cannot be double biased, as I've said with the Democrats and the Republicans, with its utter ridiculous biasness, double biasy, which is an utter disgrace. At the same time, what I also loved about that '89 season was Detroit won it all, and they swept the Lakers. And they finally showed Michael Jordan winning his first championship as a member of the Chicago Bulls. So we'll see what happens. More telling times of this documentary next week. Episodes 5 and 6, it's going to talk about the Dream Team. Kobe Bean Bryant is going to be featured in this next Sunday. And there are going to be a lot of tissues and a lot of growing complaints about this. Because those guys, the people that were on those dream teams, were each, and let me say this, each and every single one of them, they were a leader and the heartbeat and the heart and soul of those respective teams. That's how it is. I mean, that's how it is. That dream team was utterly nasty. And all the opponents were like, this is just disgraceful that we have to go up against this. And last but not least, the NHL, a former NHL All-Star MVP John Scott announced that training camps will begin sometime in June, most likely June 1st. This is a step in the right direction to the NHL returning to games. And some of those players will probably get back into the United States from Canada and Europe nonetheless. And then the NBA also plans on opening some facilities this Friday, May 1st. I can't believe it's going to be May 1st this Friday already. And it's going to depend to see what happens nonetheless, because players want to get back to playing games because they miss playing basketball. I have doubts that the NBA season will continue. I just think there's been too much contact nonetheless because of coronavirus nonetheless. The NBA and the NHL. That's just how it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning into my show. I will Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. I will be back on the air at the same time on Thursday. My topics are going to be some potential NBA and NHL topics. I'm probably going to have some more 2020 NFL draft stuff. I'll have some other NFL topics as well, nonetheless, related to it. Maybe some MLB topics as well. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. I love you all. Take care, be safe, and be well. Thanks. I truly appreciate it, guys. Take care. Be safe and be well. I love you all. And hopefully I'll see you guys on Thursday.